Greetings, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Living on Music. I'm Steve Houck, and what an exciting week. And why? Well, this Thursday, February 24th, we will be going to this phenomenal venue behind me, the Warner in Washington, D.C. First concert, indoor venue, bona fide indoor venue concert in about 2 years since this all began. And it is to see the one and only Beth Hart, who is the headliner of the gig. Beth has been dynamic, electrifying blues, rock, R&B-ish style singer-songwriter for many, many years. I got to interview her 10 years ago for my Living on Music website. It's there if you wanted to go and search Beth Hart. It's an amazing, and boy, what a incredible ride she had. She went through hell and high water in a number of ways, and you can read the article and find out how she got through that. And music really was her salve and her doorway to get out of the tough times, and since then has been one of the most revered musicians ever, and so excited. We saw her, the last time we saw her was a number of years ago at the 8th Street Synagogue, I believe it's called, in Washington. Only an acoustic show. I've never seen her full band, and that's Thursday night. And at the end of the show, her accompanying guitarist was playing up on stage, and she walked down the aisles and just was high-fiving people and giving them brief hellos. Came to our aisle and hugged Suzanne for probably seemed like 20 minutes, but probably about 20 seconds, just like this. And I was right there, and I'm like, wow. And I was like, hey, hug me. But no, it was really spectacular moment, very emotional moment, like Beth does. So she is headlining at this gig, but opening up is somebody that is on fire and is not only a guitar prodigy. Quinn Sullivan, 22 years old now, was pulled up on stage at about 6 by Buddy Guy to play guitar, and blew people's minds and launched this now 16-year since then career. He has toured the world. He has played Madison Square Garden, Hollywood Bowl, other venues, amazing venues. He's playing the Warner, not bad. He'll be playing Town Hall in New York City soon. But he is one of those incredible young musicians who is already making his mark. And he has a new album called Wide Awake, which we'll talk a little bit about that. But again, not only a young guitar all-star, but also a wonderful singer-songwriter. I was listening to his music over the last week and just fell for it. Suzanne had seen him when he was 15 and already knew how amazing he was. So very excited to have somebody like Quinn opening up for Beth. And not only that, but very excited to have him on Living on Music. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please give a warm Living on Music welcome to Quinn Sullivan. Quinn Sullivan, welcome to Living on Music, man. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, come on. It is an honor, man. I have known your name for many years. I know that there has been a lot going on since all this began when you were in your single digits, and things are really soaring. What I love is that I get to see you live in 2 days at the Warner Theater, which is right behind me, by the way.
Nice.
Have you ever played the Warner?
You know what? I don't think I've ever played the Warner Theater. I've played DC before, but I've never played that venue. And it's actually a bucket list venue for me. I've never.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it is spectacular, and you're going to have a fabulous time. Not only, and you just said you've had how long have you been on the road with Beth and her band and all of your folks?
Almost 3 weeks now. Almost 3 weeks. We started on the 1st, I believe, in San Diego. And so we've been coasting along, man. It's been a really fun tour. So fun.
I bet it has, and she is one in a million. I had told a little story in the intro here. We saw her acoustic at the 8th and Synagogue. It's like a 8th Street Synagogue here in DC. Wonderful little like synagogue-ish. You've heard of it. And saw her last time acoustic, and she finished the show, and her accompanist guitarist was playing, and she walked up down the aisles and was saying high-fiving, and she came to my partner Suzanne and hugged her for about 20 seconds. It was, I've
Wow.
never seen anything like it live. I'm sitting there going, hey, hug me. And but it was, I mean, that's Beth. And it must be, again, how has it been just being able to hang with her, even a little bit as you guys are kind of churning down the road?
So great. Every single night, she comes up to us after our show. Like we'll go backstage and she'll just give this whole speech about how proud she is of us and how we're keeping the music going, and just because I'm on tour right now, I'm actually doing a duo show, so it's not my full band on this run. So it's me and my friend and musical collaborator Chris Bloniars is playing mandolin and keyboards and singing with me. So it's a little bit of a different show than I'm used to, but she seems to be blown away with it. I mean, I didn't know what to expect going into it. I knew Beth was incredible, and I knew her a little bit about her history, but I really didn't know her too well. I've never met her before, so to be welcomed like this on a tour like this after being in a pandemic for 2 years is pretty fantastic. Yeah.
Well, you fit a wonderful role in Beth's kind of history, given her very tight relationship with Joe Bonamassa.
Sure.
She hangs around guitar aficionados a lot, and you fit right into that. Your band is a duo for this gig. That is exciting as heck. Quinn, you're 22 years old. Your musical career was churning when this thing hit. How have you been dealing with the last 2 years?
I've been taking it day by day. I mean, at first, obviously we thought this was going to last 2 weeks, and I remember like when it first started to happen, because my birthday was on the 26th of March. Wow. And I was turning 21. So that was like when everything started to kind of shut down and everything began to just go away.
Right.
And, I was like, oh, I can't go out to some bars on my 21st birthday. Oh, big whoop, I'll stay in, And so I thought it was just going to be a maybe 2 weeks. And obviously we're still here dealing with this 2 years later. So it's pretty insane. But luckily I had this new album that was done. Because I finished the album in 2020, like beginning of the year.
Right.
Luckily, and I did the whole thing in LA with this producer Oliver Lieber.
Wow.
And it was amazing. It was such an amazing process and whole thing, and we'll talk more about it. But anyways, I was so focused on that, and I remember we had some overdubbing to do for the album. So 2020 kind of began to unfold with me doing overdubs for my house.
Right.
Doing a lot of listening to a lot of mixes and dealing with all of that.
Right.
So
right.
that kept me busy for like the first 4 or 5 months of it,
Right.
And after that, it just began to be like, well, when are we going to get out there and play? Because this is insane. And I don't think I had a gig. I think I missed a whole entire year of shows. I mean, it was a good year and a half before I did any public appearance anywhere. So
yeah, you would have been somebody being hurt by it as much as anybody. And of the 100 musicians I've had on this show over the last 20 months, because we began it in the pandemic, I bet you really, you had to take a big deep breath and say, okay, this will end, but I got to do something to keep myself. So did you do anything virtual? Did you just continue to try to write and
Sure.
collaborate online?
Yeah, I tried to do a lot of live streaming. I did a lot of Facebook stuff, Instagram stuff, and tried to, do some live streaming and whatever. And and trying to at the same time plan out how we were going to put this record out, because putting out an album in a pandemic is very challenging and something that no one really knows how to do.
Right.
So we were learning as we were going, and we actually waited a year to put it out. We were supposed to put it out in the summer of 2020, and we felt like that was not the right time to do it, and to get the right just push of the record. We felt like we wanted to wait about a year. So we ended up dropping the first single in January of 2021, which I thought was a pretty good idea. And
that was
simmer for a while, So.
Right. Was that How Many Tears?
The first song was a song called All Around the World.
Cool.
And
yeah. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Wide Awake was an album that came out. This is the album you're talking about. Was this what kind of songwriting, kind of a process did you go through to get to this point? I know your guitar work was central as you were growing up, and then as your career kind of excelled, and we're going to talk about the 6-year-old Buddy Guy moment, which I just still can't even fathom. But when did the songwriting start to take a bigger role in yourself?
I think it started to take a bigger role when I was around 18, and it was
Wow.
that was kind of a turning point for me musically and career wise. I felt like I wanted to, you know, as I say, like expand my Rolodex as far as
Yeah.
my music goes and as far as my sound. You know, I think all artists evolve, and I love blues music, but I
Mm.
knew that was not where I wanted to end my career. Like I
Right.
didn't end there. I wanted to grow because I love so many different kinds of music and influenced by a lot of different stuff. So I definitely wanted to grow in that sense, and I
Yeah.
think it just was it seemed to be a natural progression for me. You know, I knew on this record I wanted to expand and to you know, let my fans and new people know that really who I am, what I wanted to say. You know, and it's
Right.
kind of exciting because I kind of had just a clean slate and a blank canvas to kind of go from and just put paint on and just do it.
Totally.
And I flew out to Los Angeles to meet Oliver Lieber for the first time in
Mm.
like probably mid 2018,
Awesome.
and we met at his home studio. He lives in Studio City, and we met, and he's got this beautiful studio in his backyard, and that's where we actually wrote and did the whole entire album. So we
Oh,
did backyard of his house. It was great.
wow.
And
What a way to begin, your songwriting kind of flow. That's just,
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
churning. Woof.
Oh my God, yeah. So we did that, and the first time we met, we actually wrote a song together, believe it or not, called "She's Gone," and
Oh,
that actually was one of the songs that made the record. So
wow.
it was an immediate connection. We just had a really tight connection musically, and he introduced me to a lot of cool stuff. You know, I really wasn't a big, or I didn't really know much about Prince or like Sly and the Family Stone or any of
Right.
that. He really brought that music to my attention and would play me stuff as we were writing and going, oh man, we got to do something like that, or we got to do something like
Oh,
that. So it was just musical wonderland for me, and it just turned into me going every few months. I would go fly out there and we'd write 3 or 4 songs in a week, or maybe sometimes 2 songs in a week. We didn't really rush it too much, and we got to about 14 to 15 songs, and we were like, okay, now we have an album. So uh, the recording process started. We had these incredible musicians come in to play.
oh,
Oliver got Abe Laboriel Jr. to play some drums. I mean, he's
oh,
he's Paul McCartney's drummer. I mean,
yes.
and I'm the biggest Beatles fan of all time. So to have that happen was just unbelievable. He came in for one day, and I think he cut like 4 tracks or something like that.
Oh my
So
God.
just a powerhouse dude, and such a genuine, really nice guy. And I mean, so many other people played on it too. I mean, we had Aaron Sterling come and play some drums, who's another LA extraordinaire drummer. I mean, he's played on so many different albums, and
Wow.
Oliver really, really hooked it up for me.
Oh,
For this
perfect.
album. Yeah, he has a lot of really tight musical friends, and I think it really enhanced the music and the overall album
Well, it
sound.
sounds it. What a perfect experience for this album. I'm so happy for you that you were able to get it out too, because again,
Thanks.
everything was just hitting the head, and then you were able to get it out. It's
Yeah.
wonderful, Quinn, to look at some of the songs too. I mean, how many tears, excuse me, is a reflection of, you were talking about it in a couple of things, and how it's this kind of reflection of your relationships back in high school and love. It seems like things are pouring out, into your music. I love that.
Yeah, it's funny when you look back at your life sometimes and you go, "Ooh, that would be cool to write about," or "Ooh, that kind of hit me. That didn't really hit me at that time, but it hit me 3 years later." And that's
Yeah.
kind of how that song was born. Really, it was
Oh,
like it was just about like me and Oliver would just sit and have these conversations about life, and he'd ask me like, "Oh, who you going out with, or who are you dating anybody right now?" And we would just talk openly about it because we at that point our relationship was so open and free, and we would just, I mean, and he's also, age wise, he's a lot older than I am, but
right.
yet we seem to have related in a lot of ways, even
Oh,
though the age gap was pretty big, but
perfect.
still, I mean, he's 50, I think he's 58 or something. So,
Right.
he's had a whole life of experiences and whatever. And so, yeah, we just began talking about stuff. And that song, I actually had the chord progression to that. I started to play it in the studio. We were writing another song actually that day. And I
Oh,
remember I was playing, it was like the end of that session. And I just started playing these chords that I was really just playing them over and over. And he was interested in what I was doing. I was like, oh, what's that? and we just started playing these chords, and at the same time I was just scatting these melodies, and before we knew it, by the end of that night, we had the song. We had the bones of the song.
Oh man! And then the staging of the video with, I guess it's Matilda Sakamoto was the dancer.
Yeah.
I love that way that she comes into the picture. It just shows your creativity is blossoming, man, and it looks like it's the beginning of a long journey in this kind of world for singer-songwriter Quinn Sullivan. Talk to me a little bit about how this all began. Where were you born?
I was born in Boston, actually. At Brigham and Women Hospital.
I know. Yeah, I'm a BU grad and a Connecticut resident back in the day. So Boston.
Cool, very nice. But I'm from New Bedford, Massachusetts, which is a smaller city, about an hour south of Boston. Yeah.
Right.
And I still live there with my parents. When the pandemic hit, I was like, well, I'm not moving out right now.
Right. No, I'm fine here. As long as you get along a little bit with them, then you're in. And
Oh, they're very, very chill. Yeah. But anyways, I grew up in a small city, New Bedford, and and music was always in the house. I mean, from the get-go. I mean, it was always being played. My two parents love music. On my dad's side, it was like he would play me like the Grateful Dead, because he was a huge Grateful Dead fan. He's a drummer, and he was in a Grateful Dead cover band. So he was obsessed with the Dead growing up, and so he would play me that stuff, a lot of Jerry Garcia band stuff, and David Grisman and all that. But and then obviously there was the Beatles that really took over my whole musical life.
I love that. I love hearing folks your age. My son is included in that spectrum, and loving the Beatles and loving bands that we grew up with. It sounds like your dad and I probably had a similar forte of music, because that's what you hope in some ways, even though my son loves other music, stuff like that, loves some country. They just went and saw Billie Eilish in New York City, and some different stuff like that. But it's so that it's a question I ask a lot of people, but to just know your history a little bit already, and when did the guitar get into your hands?
The guitar got into my hands at 3. I was a very young guy. Yeah. And my two parents, I think it was one Christmas, and they bought me a little company called First Act Guitars, and they bought that for me for Christmas. And I just remember being obsessed with it. I really can't tell you why or what it was about it. I guess it was just because I had watched these people on stage on TV, like they would play me like Beatles movies, and I'd see like the Rolling Stones on stage with like Keith and Ronnie playing side by side. I'm just like, man, like that's so cool. And I just was so fascinated. I mean, most kids that age are kicking around a kickball or something. Or whatever they're doing. And I was just super, super obsessed with, I think, first of all, just the way it looked to be on stage. I thought it just looked cool. And yeah, I mean, it's who doesn't want to do that, and for me, like it ended up being a thing where I played for maybe a few months, and then when I was around 5, I started to take lessons and stuff and get more into it and more deeply into and really started to take it a little bit more seriously and learn chords and learn songs. And every week I would go into the lesson, and I would ask my teacher to teach me songs. Like I would go, I think one of the first songs I had learned was Blackbird by the Beatles.
Oh, beautiful. Nice start.
Yes, I'd walk into the lesson and be like, hey, can I learn how to play Blackbird? And I would come back a week later and try to play it back for him. And that was just an evolution. It just kept happening, and I just kept practicing and kept playing and here we are.
Oh no, that is, and what's really cool, Quinn, is that a lot of people pick up the guitar when they're young and they try to play, and maybe it doesn't go one way, or they try to keep playing a little bit. Where did the skill come in, though? You took lessons, but when did it come to a point where you were like, I mean, talk a little bit about the 6-year-old experience with Buddy Guy, because that seemed to be an early one that really might have propelled you. Had you been playing, or how did he even know you were there?
Sure. Yeah. So that was around 2007. I guess I was around 8 at that time, or maybe 7 going on 8. And that happened. I mean, my dad bought me the Crossroads Festival DVD. So I saw the Eric Clapton Crossroads thing, and that blew my mind. And that really solidified me thinking to myself, well, this is what I want to do. This is like, I want to be a part of that. I want to whatever these guys are doing. I want some of that. And
you wanted to play guitar at that in that kind of style and even get close to that kind of level. That's amazing.
Yeah, just at that age, it just blew me away. And I saw a buddy come out and play on that, and I was just like, man, who is that guy? I mean, who is that dude just ripping on stage?
Right.
And yeah, and I was just I was blown away. And we found out that he was coming a couple of years later. He was coming to play downtown New Bedford at this place called the Theater. Yeah.
Sweet.
So me and my dad, we got tickets, and we went to the show, and somehow found ourselves backstage. I think we knew a person that worked at the theater that kind of snuck us back, kind of like, you know, under the table, like, come on, like, you know, kind of the give us the, you know, like, let's sneak in. And I had my little Squire Fender Strat with me.
You did.
You did, yeah. And I didn't know I was gonna, just by chance, if I were to meet him. And but yeah, we ended up getting back, and I got to walk in and get introduced to Buddy Guy, and it was amazing, and it was literally life-changing experience. And at that moment, I had no idea that would change the course of my life. I mean, really forever.
Oh, I can imagine. And he had you come up and play with him that evening? Yeah.
So I played him a couple of licks on the guitar, you know, just a few things, and he, I guess he was impressed, and he said, "You'd be ready when I call you." And so I was in the audience. He literally pulled me out of the audience. Like I was just had my little guitar, I had like a suit, like a black suit on, like a polka dot tie. His thing is polka dots, so I wanted to show a little bit of appreciation for his thing.
Totally, that's his look.
That's his logo, man. Yeah. So we, you know, got to go on stage and played the last half an hour of the show, and it was just mind blowing, you know, and like I said, it just began a total loving friendship and just a mentorship, and it just it was just amazing. Yeah.
Oh man, I interviewed Buddy. It was one of the first interviews I ever did as a music writer, and I was astounded. I mean, and he did talk about the influences, but wow, that is, and then things took off. Now you were on Ellen. I just looked at that clip, and I didn't even know about it, and I just was reviewing your stuff, and I'm like, and was that as a result of this? Was it just this? Was it a snowball down a hill, or how did things happen after that?
What's funny is the Ellen thing was 2 years before I met
Buddy. That's great. Well, even better. Oh god.
So I already sort of had that in my cap, and that was really by chance. I mean, my dad would email, and this was before we met Buddy, so we were just on our own doing it, and you know, like we didn't take it so seriously. Like, you know, everybody thinks, well, were your parents like forcing you to practice? Were they like, you know, you have to do this and you have to do that? They were very, very, very chill. And I remember there was never any pressure to practice. I mean, they obviously, I'm sure, wanted me to excel in whatever I wanted to excel in, but I was also a little kid. So who knows in 3 years if I would have still been doing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, so, you know, I stuck with it, obviously, but
God.
I enough to stick with it. But yeah, that happened. My dad emailed, I think, a producer. He found a producer online, and we just thought it would be just a funny thing. Oh, let's see if they'll get back to us. I'm sure it's not gonna happen, you know.
Right.
And they did. Like a week or two later, I think they emailed us back and was like, "Yeah, we think this is really interesting. We want to have him on the show." And we flew out to LA for I've never been on a plane before, never been to California. Flew out, and there I was on the Ellen show at 6 years old, and just mind-boggling experience. And watch that video sometimes, and I'm just like, oh my god, I can't believe that's me.
I know, and it's spectacular, and it didn't end there. I mean, it seems like things. When I look at some of the places you've played, you did play Madison Square Garden at one point.
So yeah, so that whole thing became full circle for me. I mean, because watching Crossroads on TV and from the 2004 Crossroads, and then being asked by Buddy if I wanted to go play that again.
Oh my God.
My career could have ended that night or the next day, and I would have been like, I did it. Like, right. No, I feel like I've lived a lot of life in 22 years, and yet it still feels like I'm just beginning the career. So it's very cool.
Oh, I love hearing that.
Yeah, but anyways, Crossroads was a huge moment for me. I mean,
Oh, it had to be.
Clapton, it was Greg, it was the Allman Brothers when Greg was still alive. It was the
Yes.
and Jeff Beck, Derek Trucks, Gary Clark Jr. I mean, all of my heroes, really. I mean, all of my musical heroes, John Mayer. I mean, everybody was there, and yeah, it was a mind blowing experience. There's really no other way to put it. It was just insane.
I can only imagine, and I think I'm going to have to go back and re-listen and refine that and find you in there again, because that was an astounding experience. I've interviewed Derek several times, and boy, is he something else. They just played DC at where you're playing.
The Warner. I just saw that.
Yeah, they just played 3 nights there and did some incredible stuff. Of course. Nice. It just seems, Quinn, like things again, at 22 years old, you're really on a roll. How do you feel going forward? Say the pandemic mellows and you're able to do largely what you want to do. What is next on the agenda for you to continue to write songs, I would think, and perform and go forward?
Yeah, that's pretty much what I want to do. And definitely, once this kind of settles a little bit, I really, really want to tour a lot this year and really tour this album and play this music. Because we've really only done like a handful of shows. I mean, we've done, this Beth tour has been incredible, but as a full band, I've only done maybe 7 or 8 shows in the last year. Wow. With my full band playing the new material. So that's a goal of mine, to really get back out on the road with my band and play these songs for people and introduce more people to this new music, because I just feel like it hasn't really been fully out really enough yet to people. So that's really exciting to get more into that. But I'm sure at the end of the year I want to get back into the studio and write more and get just I really because I waited a long time between the last album before Wide Awake was 2017,
right?
And so it was about a 4-year gap, or 4 or 5 year gap between the albums. So I want to always be able to put out something new, whether it's a single or an EP or an album, whatever, every single year. That's my goal. Every year I want to put out something new.
Right.
So that's definitely another goal of mine. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, look, I cannot wish you more luck and more happy treasures as you go forward. It's hard to beat a lot of what you've done already. So it's only going to rise. And I think one fun thing, and whether or not you want to have a demo of a 61-year-old, be 60, I'll be 61 in a week. Nice. And my son, again, as I said before we started the show, was having you stream on Spotify. He just turned 26 yesterday. So there you have 2 people in different generations who love this music so much. I have fallen for you. I've been playing it while I've been making dinner the last few nights. And awesome. What I love is the sound resonates for me. You've got a rock and roll feel. You've got a sense of songwriting that appeals to, the fans of this era. And you're also kicking it, I would think, in your generation as too, because they do love that music too. Can you find that it absorbs both of those demos?
This record in particular, that was always my struggle, and still is a bit of a struggle for me to get this music in front of people my age, because I was so known in the blues world, as being this guy, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, Quinn is taking a shift and he's doing something different, where I don't really think it's doing something different. I think it's just expanding. It's expanding what I've already been doing and growing and just being what I want to be, and right. The blues is always the foundation. The music is, to me, all good music is blues based. I mean, if you listen to any sort of any music that's got soul, which that's really the only music that I care about, is influenced by blues. We were just talking a little bit about Billie Eilish. I mean, she has such a Billie Holiday vibe to me.
Yes.
Like if you really study her voice, she seems like, I don't never met her before, but from what I hear from her and her voice, I just feel like she's influenced by all of those jazz women back in the 30s and the 40s. I get that vibe from her. So
right.
It's all music stems from music that came before us.
Yes.
And so it's you try to bring all of the best elements of music that you love and make it your own. And that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
Well, yeah. And I think that's the way a lot of people that you've mentioned here have done. Clapton is one of them, who was, embedded in the blues, embedded in his own thing, and then really took off and became this a high-end songwriter. A lot of people. Joe Louis Walker is another guy I've had on who is, again, another.
Joe's a really good friend of mine. He's great.
Is he really? Oh, that's great. I wish I'd known you when I had him on. We could have talked about you then too.
Oh man, Joe's amazing. Yeah.
He is. Linwood Taylor is another blues guy from this area, and Linwood played with Joe on tour for many years. And the blues are part of our soul too. And what I love is that, yes, you have that in your soul, but again, you want to do more, and that's what you're doing. And man, I'm going to be behind you 100% and keep in close touch as you go along. And hopefully, one day when, being that Thursday things are still a little tight, when you come back to DC, we can hook up and say hey. And I wish you nothing but the best. For what you're doing right now, man. It is a soaring career, and I can't wait to see what happens to you.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Yeah, we'll definitely make it happen next time. I know the whole COVID, they're very tight on this tour, but next time for sure. Yeah,
I'd love to do that. I'm going to be in row G over to the side.
All right, I'll make sure to look.
Pretty close. Yeah, well, yeah, wait. I didn't mean, yeah, whatever you want to do. But no, I'm really excited to see you play. And then again, been such a fan of Beth. But good luck on Thursday. Good luck with this tour. You got some great venues coming up too. I think you're playing Town Hall in New York City, right?
Yeah.
I've been looking at some of these venues you're playing at in the Count Basie Theater next to in Red Bank, which is another great. Willie Nile is a good buddy of mine, and I had him on, and Willie just played there, and there's a new theater there. Good luck with the tour. Good luck with everything you're doing, and keep in touch.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right.